everybody. Today we are discussing 100 Years of Solitude for the Read, Write, Inspire book club. So let me begin. Let's see a little bit about the author and there's a lot to discuss about the book. Also the historical context and about Colombia, the themes which Marquez has explored in this book, a few discussions and lots of beautiful quotes. So let's begin with Gabriel Garcia Marquez, the Colombian author. So Marquez was heavily influenced by his grandfather and grandmother, in fact. So his grandfather was a storyteller, and his grandfather had these really progressive political ideas, and both of this influenced Marquez's writing. Till he was about 10 or 12 years of age, Marquez grew up with his maternal grandparents. And after that, he shifted to his father's place. His father was a physician. And Marquez had, though he was very intelligent and very smart in school, he didn't, stick to his education. So there was a lot of heated discussions between him and his mother on, what is he going to do in his life and what does he want to do in the future. And they wanted him to take up some professional qualification. And he did join for law, but then again, he did not finish that. He quit and he joined as a journalist. So there's this very interesting conversation between him and his mother where she says, what are you going to do? And he's like, you can't push me, allow me to be myself, and I'll discover what I want to do later on. And then suddenly in the conversation, it's his mother who remarks that I heard that, if you show a little bit more focus, you could be a good writer. This is what I heard from your teachers and others. And Marquez is taken aback. He's like, writer? I don't want to, I don't think that's something for everyone. If you want to be really a good writer, then you need to be someone really excellent if you want to really make it in that field. And I don't want to be a pauper and all that. So that's how he reacts to his mother, but he later on does become a writer. And I think one person who was a major influence in Marquez's life and as a writer, and who was his biggest financial and emotional support, was his wife, Mercedes. In 1958, he married her. And in fact, he fell in love with her when she was 9 years of age. And he was about 12 years of age or something. And over the years, they've been in love with each other. And then even later on, he said, I'll wait for you to finish your studies and then we'll marry. And that's how it was. Once he became famous, and once 100 Years of Solitude was published and it became the hit that it is, he had a very, he was seen as a huge influential person. So he has helped in the Colombian politics also a lot. So one of the things is that, so Marquez, he has helped as a facilitator in the negotiations between the Colombian government and the guerrillas when he was in Barcelona, Spain. This is after 100 Years of Solitude. He has also had a very outspoken opinion about the US imperialism and the devastating effects it has had on the Colombian economy. And because of this, he was banned from the visa list by the US. He couldn't apply for a visa till actually Bill Clinton took office. And when Bill Clinton lifted the visa ban, he very famously has, had proclaimed that 100 Years of Solitude is one of his most favorite novels. Also, after using his influence and because of his intellectual prowess, he also became a very close friend with the former Cuban president, Fidel Castro. And he had a very good, friendships in the literary world. And especially even when he got his Nobel Prize, he had in fact, announced that though this prize is being given to me, it's actually awarded for the entire, Colombian literature, from where I come and all the other authors around me. So one famous author who belongs to the same time period is Mario Vargas Llosa, Mario Vargas Llosa. And he and Marquez had a good bond and they were very good friends. But again, that broke into it's considered as one of the biggest literary feuds when Mario, in fact, punched Marquez in his face, and Marquez ended up with a black eye, a bleeding black eye in public. So that's a very interesting incident. And okay.
Spider-Man, okay.
I think you have to mute yourself. Yeah, okay. So Gabriel Garcia Marquez as a writer. Leaf Storm is Marquez's first novella, and it took about 7 years for him to find a publisher for that. It was finally published in 1955, and in 1958, he marries Mercedes. And just one second. Let me just... Okay, done. Yeah, I just muted. So yeah, he marries Mercedes, and Mercedes is a huge emotional support for him in his writing. And what she does is that he tells her that he wants to write this, wonderful novel, this big novel that he's working on. In fact, it's said that he has been working on it for nearly 20 years. But it's been like in bits and pieces here and there. I used to have this huge notebook where I used to keep jotting down ideas. So he wanted a space for writing. So what Mercedes does is that she erects a wall right in the middle of the living room, which stretches up right to the ceiling, and she has a door over there. And inside she makes this small little room, and inside that she puts a table, a chair, and a typewriter, and she makes that as his writing den. And they are when they were out, they were going to go on a vacation, and on the way in the car, suddenly Marquez has this idea, and he decides that now is the time I need to write 100 Years of Solitude. So he just turns the car, they go back. He sells the car, he gives the money to Mercedes and tells her, I'm not going to be working for the next 1 year. Use this money and just see us through. I'm going to sit and write this book. And he goes into his den. And from that day, for the next 18 months, he didn't finish it in 12 months, as he said. For the next 18 months, he wrote every single day. And of course, the money from the car went away. Then after that came, she sold, it's famously said that she sold her hair dryer, she sold the blender at home, and she had, taken loan from the butcher, from the vegetable shop vendor, from the fruit vendor. They hadn't paid the rent for about 9 months. But it's said that all of them, all those, right from the vendors, the butchers to the landlord, everyone was supportive of Marquez's venture. So, and they were all very glad. And once he had actually published the book and become famous, it's said that he went back and thanked each of them individually and paid back his dues. So one thing which everyone stresses on about Marquez when compared to the other authors of his period, especially the Colombian authors in his period, is that Marquez was one person who was heavily disciplined. There is this famous incident where an author calls him up and tells him that, I'm in this kind of a problem, I'm just in this thing. So can you just come and help me now? So Marquez says, I am editing chapter 3, I can't come. So he's like, oh, you have some deadline or something? And Marquez says, yes, it's a deadline I've given myself. I have to do this. There's no if and but about it. So I can't come. And so that kind of discipline is considered like one of the things why Marquez was as successful as he is when compared to his peers. So now let's start, breaking down a little bit about 100 Years of Solitude. So 100 Years of Solitude is an allegory of the Colombian history. it's a condensed, version of the entire Colombian history. All the major things which are happening in the novel have a parallel to the real Colombian history too. So historical events and mythology are narrated through the Buendia family in Macunda, which is a fictional town. So Colombia has a long history of social stratification and wealth disparity. This was the remnants of the colonial rule. And Marquez has tried to bring this out and show this in the book. The war, which is called as La Violencia, is the war which is actually shown in the book is the La Violencia, which was the civil war between the Colombian liberals and the conservative parties. It's estimated that this cost some 200, cost the lives of some 200,000 people in Colombia. The fighting, just like how it's shown here, took place largely in the rural areas. The political leaders in the polis encouraged the impoverished supporters of the Conservative Party to seize the land from the peasant liberals. There was a lot of fighting, a lot of killing, and there was immense censorship against the press reports. This was very common at that time. And this is what is shown in the book too, where Jose Arcadio Segundo tries to spread the word about the massacre which takes place, where he claims some 3,000 plus lives were lost. However, the newspaper reports that these workers got on the train and they went away peacefully. They don't say that the bodies were put on the train and they were thrown into the sea. This is the incident where there's that strike in the banana plantation and the owners of the plantation shoot down the workers. So, okay. So this is a little bit about the Colombian history and how it's shown in 100 Years of Solitude. Next, I wanted to talk to you about most of the, the initial, there are certain instances of romantic, inspiration in this book, which has come directly from Marquez's parents. So Marquez's father had to work very hard to woo his mother. He was a conservative. He was actually a physician with good reputation and all that, but he also had this reputation as a womanizer. So Marquez's mother's parents, they did not want him to marry their daughter. So they tried everything to get rid of him. But eventually they gave in once they saw that he was so dedicated to their daughter. Love in the Time of Cholera, which Ranjini was just talking about, which is another famous novel by Marquez, is in fact, the whole story is based upon his parents' love for each other and the family disapproval of their marriage, infatuation. And all these things, themes can also be found in 100 Years of Solitude. Another important thing which inspired 100 Years of Solitude is how Marquez writes it. He writes it in the form of a magic, it's called as magic realism, the genre. And but Marquez never thought that he wants to write a novel in the genre of magic realism. What happened was Marquez's grandmother influenced him with the way, she used to treat extraordinary things as something ordinary and something which is very, very normally expected. So she told him stories of ghosts and of certain omens as if they are a fact, as if they are very normal things. And Marquez incorporated this style of magical storytelling into his writing. He didn't really consciously make a decision of writing something in magical realism. But in fact, even I think the concept of magical realism also became much more popular after 100 Years of Solitude. And that's when it was put into that genre. But the style of writing and other things, he was very influenced by Cuban literature and was also very influenced by by Virginia Woolf and a few other writers. So 100 Years of Solitude is considered as a very important representative novel of the literary Latin American boom of the 1960s and 70s. It's been translated into 46 languages. It sold more than 50 million copies. And it's one of the main reasons why Gabriel Garcia Marquez won the Nobel Prize in 1982. Okay. So before we go to discussion topics, maybe let me stop the screen share, and if someone wants to add something to it, please do. By the way, does anyone know why Mario Vargosa punched Gabriel Garcia Marquez?
Well, do you know why Will Smith slapped Chris Rock?
Will Smith had a good reason. Oh, come on. It's not something, he's not been doing this for the first time. He's already done this before with Jada. You've seen that?
No, I'm just like shocked that people can do whatever they want when so many millions of people are watching. Don't even think twice about it. Anyway, I don't know why that happened with.
So I think a couple of years back also, when one of the Oscars, so she had boycotted the Oscars or something, and Chris Rock, so he went on stage and he said that, what difference does it make? Who is she, or something like that, but in a very funny way. He didn't make it as point blank as what I'm saying. He's like, who is she and what difference does it make whether she boycotts the Oscars or not, or something like that. So I guess he had it coming. He's been speaking about her for more than a couple of times now.
Must be something a bit that we don't know about.
Yeah, quite possibly. So even Gabriel's story and Mario's story is something like that. A real, like, there's only hearsay, but no one really knows what exactly happened. And so one of the things which is said is that so Mario Vargosa and his wife, I think her name is Patricia, they both were on a ship. And when they were sailing, Mario falls in love with some other woman. So the marriage breaks. So as soon as they land, she has to go pack her things and leave. She wants to leave the house. And she's in a very bad state. So Gabriel and his wife go with her and they help her pack, and then they take her to the airport and drop her and all this stuff. And when he drops her in the airport, I think Gabriel and she traveled alone in the car. And it's not very clear what exactly happened, but either she hit on him or he hit upon her, or maybe both of them didn't. They were just friendly or something. But after some time, Mario Vargosa came back to his wife, and they once again got together. But then she was hurting, so she wanted to tell something. So she said, don't think that I'm not attractive or something. I'm quite attractive. In fact, your friend Gabriel also likes me. And something, he said this to me or something like that. And after this, Gabriel meets Mario in the theater. And he just stretches his arms out and goes to hug him, while Mario turns back and gives him a punch.
Oh, yeah, I vaguely remember reading about it. Yeah. But then I think Marquez also has got into trouble.
Yeah.
Later, right? So more recently there has been. Yeah. Okay, we'll come to that.
That was actually quite, I don't know, I felt a little disappointed, but yeah.
Do you know that their son has written a book about Gabo and Mercedes? There is a book by the son of Marquez.
Okay.
It's called.
So I have been very fascinated by Gabo and Mercedes. It's like I remember writing in a couple of places on Facebook also. In fact, I was going through my profile and searching for those posts. So there are a lot of places where I've shared about Gabo and Mercedes. And there are some places where, it's actually mentioned. If there was no Mercedes, maybe there wouldn't have been any Gabo. Because that much she took efforts to make sure that he has all the peace and time to write. Now, so in fact, everyone had given her a lot of respect. And even the incident where now they say that he has another daughter also, they've kept quiet about it. They kept quiet about it till 2020, till she passed away. So after which it was publicly announced, I guess.
Yeah, just off the topic, but sort of related. Have you seen the movie The Wife?
No.
It's a recent movie, like maybe 2-3 years ago. Highly recommended for people who like to read and read about writers. I would highly recommend. Glenn Close, excellent movie.
Okay. The Wife, is it?
Yeah, that's all. That's the name, The Wife.
Sure, I'll definitely catch it. Okay, so I think I told nice stories now. Let's get back to the presentation. Okay. Um, so the first discussion topic is the whole book seemed very fatalistic, it's as if none of the characters really had a choice. And also the story seemed to be repeating itself. Did any of you feel that? So one of the things that I wanted to discuss was about the circularity of time. The family's behavioral patterns keep repeating. So, and that is seen even in the repetition of the family names. And in fact, in one of the places, Ursula says that all the Aurelianos of the family are silent and withdrawn, often possessing the gift of a second sight, while all the Jose Arcadios are generally stronger and more boisterous, and they often meet with some tragic fate. And this is different only in one situation where there is Aurelio Segundo and Jose Arcadio Segundo, they're twins. They behave differently, and that's when Ursula, in fact, says that somewhere down the line, they have, in fact, switched their identities itself. They are identical twins, and they always keep playing each other and fooling people. And somewhere over there, they've switched their identities in childhood because they match the temperament of the other's name very well. And so that much we could see about the patterns, and whatever happens to each of them keeps repeating again and again through the story. This happens, it's said, because Marquez wanted to suggest. So one of the things is, of course, towards the end of the book, we realize that everything has already been written before. It's a predetermined narrative, It's a story that's been written, it's set in stone, and this cannot be changed. And Marquez suggests that even history is the same thing. Some of the things, the fatalistic progressions of history, is also impossible to control. So this is how things happen. Civilizations are born, they grow, and they fall. So that's something, I guess, which he wanted to show in this book. Second thing which we can see is the progress and civilization which takes place in Macondo. And the question that it raises is, it's good, progress and civilization is good, but at what cost? The book, as we just saw, 100 Years of Solitude, is an allegory for the Colombian history. So the Buendia family arrive in Macondo and they establish a town. There is a military conflict between the liberal and conservative parties. Also, we see about the expansion of the railway to connect the various colonial settlements. And the hegemony of the American Fruit Company, the kind of power and holding it has over the Colombian produce, the Colombian land. All this, which we see in the novel, is the real Colombian history too. So while we read the book, it seems like Macondo is there is no place at all called Macondo. It is established, it grows, and it looks like civilization seems to be in ascendance. There's a growing town with new technologies, new possibilities, etc. But the town, as it goes on, it reverses its course. It falls into disrepair, and there's a repetitive wars, and there's a lot of destruction. Land is destroyed, properties are destroyed. We see the kind of disrepair and destruction which happens. And one of the main reasons is the stagnation of the local innovation. There's nothing so initially in the start of the book, we see how innovative they are. They try to find new things, though he's not always successful, but they keep trying to find new things, do new things, grow new things. But once the fruit company comes in and once they take over everything, they just throw the money on the face, and the local innovation and local development kind of gets stagnant. This is the fruit company, the bananas which are grown, which is shown, is a parallel for the banana republic. And as we know, the growth of bananas in these Colombian lands was done in a very negligent manner, where the same kind of plant was grown in very close quarters and in the entire field. And when it was attacked by some kind of disease, immediately it spread all through Colombia, all through these farmlands, all through these banana farms, and the whole produce was destroyed. All the produce had to be cut down. The whole lands had to be destroyed. So there was a complete negligent and a complete, don't care attitude towards the farmlands of Colombia by these US-based fruit companies. And this can be seen over there. And finally, this negligence is costing the land. Everything is fallen after that. So there's a disrepair, there's nothing, those houses are abandoned, and there's no one in town. And finally, we also see the whole, city is destroyed, that whole town is destroyed. So history, the real history also, in real history also, we often show civilizations as if history is always seen like it's a constant forward progress. However, that's not true. Even the greatest of civilizations have fallen, and they will continue to fall too. The events of history repeat themselves, and there is regression. There's not just constant improvement. Similarly, Macondo is destroyed entirely by the hurricane, and Macondo goes back to the same state in what it was before the Buendia family arrived and developed the town. Okay, so with this, I start the quotes. So let me stop the screen share, and maybe last we'll go to the quotes.
Yeah, I remember, like I told you, I read it many, many years ago, like at least 20 years ago. But I remember feeling that way, that the story would move forward. And that time I was more open to reading about wars and stuff. Nowadays I don't read, but because it's too close for comfort, right? So many wars happen. But I kept that feeling, that what use is this progress? Because it seemed to be like slipping back. And there was this melancholy feeling, that the story is not moving forward as much as it is going cyclical.
Yeah.
And I think that was also my first time with magic realism. It was like, what to believe and what is real. And of course, it's all a made up story, but still, when that magic realism parts come, it gets quite... it's like the songs in the Indian movies, right? Like there is an interruption of the narrative and it gets into a fantastical place, right? The magic realism and then how it ties together. So there was this otherworldly feeling about the book, as opposed to, this is very likely to have happened and happened like this, right? It had these flights of fancy, I guess. And also a little bit of that inevitability of things not really improving, but going backwards. So the point you made, I remember feeling that way. And that's why I liked Love in the Time of Cholera better. When I got around to that, saying out of these two books, I like that one better. It was more realistic, I would say. Even though it was still a fantastic story, not fantastical, but it was still like an amazing story.
I found the novel challenging and lengthy, madam. Actually, the novel was challenging and lengthy, and Rushdie called it the greatest novel of last 50 years.
Yes,
that is a fact. But one cannot complain, as it covers the extraordinary story of birth, growth, and death of 7 generations of Beundia family and the village Macondo. That is an imaginative village to which the family belonged. Of course, once you read the book, you get a sense of fatigue after completing the book, because I found each page throbs with life. happenings that are conceivable and not conceivable, plain and absurd. Actually. Because mind had to battle to absorb the story. And when I opened the book first time, I found actually the family tree of Beundia. I was surprised that actually normally that is not the case. Then I had to make a guess, maybe the story is deeper, it must be covering several characters and linking each other and other things. And I was mentally prepared for the long haul. But while reading the book, what I found is one has to be got to be alert and attentive. The names are repetitive as you just observed. Some activities are also circular. Names are repetitive. We do not know the reason for the same. For example, Arulino Beundia melts his gold fishes at the end of the day so he can re-weld them in the morning. Similarly, Amaranta weaves and unravels her shroud every time. And these Beundia offspring do not vanish when they die. They just repeat themselves both in names and their, as you just said, characteristics.
Correct.
And multiple generations of nephews fall in love with their aunts. Multiple generations of brothers share this. This is absurd. I don't know. Multiple generations
so
of brothers.
Absurd. I didn't know. I also.
Share mistresses.
Correct.
And multiple Aurelius are born wide-eyed and silent. Actually, everyone say he's born with eyes open.
Eyes open.
And as you just said, these Arcadias are born lusty and tragic. So the book is not easy read actually. But if you go in for this language, for instance, the sentences, the wording and other things. The very first sentence actually, I Googled and found that the best opening sentence. It was declared by American Book Review in 2006. The sentence goes. I also found it when you go deep in. There are 3 lines in it. I will read out if you permit me.
Yes, please.
So kind of you. Many years later, as he faced the firing squad, Colonel Arulio Beundia was to remember that distant afternoon when his father took him to discover ice. You can see, observe, the sentence begins with the future happening and immediately takes the reader to the past. It is a very brilliant beginning.
Correct.
And then second sentence in the opening line. At the time, Macondo was a village of 20 adobe houses built on the bank of a river of a clear water that ran along a bed of polished stones, which were white and enormous like prehistoric eggs. Just it is a sheer poetry, actually, the second sentence. And then let's go to the third sentence. The world was so recent that many things lacked names. And in order to indicate them, it was necessary to point. The third sentence speaks of raw beginning. Almost we can say biblical genesis, an origin, a creation or a beginning. And if we can connect with the ending actually, where he says, when as you just said, the Macondo village gets destroyed, as in the case of the 7 generations. Macondo was already a fearful whirlwind of dust and rubble being spun about by the wrath of a biblical hurricane when Aureliano skipped 11 pages so as not to lose time with facts he knew only too well. And he began to decipher the instant that he was living, deciphering it as he lived it, emphasizing himself in the act of deciphering the last page of the parchments, as if he were looking into a mirror. And then he skipped again to anticipate the predictions and ascertain the date and the circumstances of his death. That means the beginning and the ending actually, as you just said, the novel speaks of it. When the village gets formed, the Macondo family comes and establishes 7 generations. And at the end, actually, also that parchments actually finds out how the end is going to come. That is as far as the first brilliant sentence is concerned. If you have observed, actually, there was one longest sentence in the book.
Oh, okay.
It was a 328 page in my edition, 328, 329, 330, 331. And I Googled how so big a sentence I had to read thrice actually. I have missed anywhere. And the longest sentence is considered 878 words. You can feel the brilliance of the writer actually. 878 words actually.
Is this the one where she goes on a rant?
Exactly correct. She
Oh,
goes
okay.
on ranting. Her husband doesn't hear her. The Fernanda, she goes on speaking, and things. But it is a very crafty sentence. It's not easy to write. Actually, 3 pages. I come across one paragraph, one sentence. Okay, someone maybe, but 3 pages. Full. There is no full stop at all.
I didn't realize that. So when I was reading, I could realize it's a rant. But when you said now, I could realize, okay, there was no full stop. I never
It
thought
is
about that.
no, you can nor had they asked her even out of courtesy why she was so pale, or why she awoke with purple rings under the eye. There is a poetry actually. That is a, if you find time, kindly go through it again. I shall strongly
Yes.
recommend. I
Nice.
read it twice actually. Man, so intelligently, so brilliantly he has written. You don't feel actually you are reading actually broken continuous sentence. You feel you are along with the feeling of the writer actually. Words and it is not verbose. You can't call it. You will go along with the feeling that
Yes.
expressed by the writer. That is what I found in writing actually. And then this I think, and magical realism. But I was told he was also influenced by this Franz Kafka Metamorphosis.
Oh, really? Okay. I didn't read about that. I didn't come across that.
This literary genre which you spoke of, magical realism,
Okay.
is a genre of literature where the real world is depicted, but it has got an undercurrent of magic or fantasy.
Okay.
That is magical realism. If you happen to have read Franz Kafka's Metamorphosis, actually, it is also an element of magic because he wakes up and finds a big
Yes.
bee and other things, animal.
Yeah.
But it sounds quite realistic. That is magical realism.
Okay.
The setting is please.
So have you like recently there was this animation movie called Encanto, I think.
Encanto. No, because I'm writing it. I have.
You must watch because the movie was said to be heavily influenced by 100 Years of Solitude.
Acha, Entango. What is it? Can you spell it out for me?
Encanto.
EANCN. Available Netflix.
I think it's available on Disney, if I'm right. Disney Plus.
Okay. Disney
But it's
Plus,
a very nice movie and it's fun. But of course, it's the Latin American and that whole thing of a lot of spells and magic and everything is there.
Acha.
Okay, so the writers have said that they were very much influenced by Marquez's writing and by 100 Years of Solitude because there also there's this huge family with aunts and uncles and a lot of characters.
It is not easy to keep track. So many and repetitive names. That is the thing.
Correct.
It was anyway. And another thing also, morning or just before we began discussion, you spoke of this Midnight's Children by Salman Rushdie.
Yes.
It also comes under this magical realism genre.
Yeah.
I googled and found out actually, basing on your email, there are actually 7 books suggested as far as magical realism is concerned. If you permit, I shall read them. One we have done now, 100 Years of Solitude by Gabriel Garcia Marquez. The second one you have already said, Salman Rushdie's Midnight's Children.
Yes.
My third one
recommendation.
Okay, I shall go for it. And the House of the Spirits by Isabel Allende. This is also of the same genre.
Oh, okay.
And Like Water for Chocolate, Laura Esquivel. This is also comes under the same genre.
Okay.
I've read that one. Yeah.
Thank you, ma'am. Actually, I have put them all in TBR now, excepting these hundreds of years of solitude, and the other I will add. And the Wind Up Bird Chronicle by Haruki Murukami. I don't know, you might have read.
Yes, I've heard of it. It's it's considered very famous and one of his best books. So yes.
When you spoke of this Midnight's Children, recommended strongly, I searched in Google, I found few more actually. Some total 7 books the site recommended. And the last one is actually The Ocean at the End of the Lane by Neil Gaiman. Okay. These are the 7 books they come under. They said magical realism novels you should read, like that they have said actually. Okay. But I just wanted to share the information.
I think what's Rushdie influenced by this one?
Definitely, I think because
definitely,
when I just read the first few pages of 100 Years of Solitude, I felt so strongly that it's the same style, the same way of writing as what I experienced with Midnight's Children.
Okay.
so very similar, I feel. And but I would personally, I like Midnight's Children even more.
Okay.
Tulika, hi Tulika.
Hi.
Did you finish or did you not?
No, I
know
deserted
you-
it.
Huh?
I deserted the book.
Yeah, I know. I remember seeing your post that you're going to.
Yeah, I had just had too much going on, and the book has even more going on with every page. Like every line, things are happening so fast that I just couldn't keep track. So then maybe another time.
Correct.
It is a very demanding book, madam.
Yeah,
It
very,
is a very demanding book. It's not an easy read. That's what. And it is like a fertile what I call land, and how much you can harvest out of it. That's what I felt. That means it requires not only a second read, several rereads.
Right.
That is
And you
what
should
I
be in a
thought.
good place mentally, as in very free in your head to actually
To
fully absorb the book. So I was just
exactly.
not there.
Yeah.
So.
Tell me about it. I know. So it was so difficult to read. And then the truth is that this is the first time I finished the book which we are having for the book club only today morning, after which I made the presentation only today. And I'm here.
And this is the only book that I couldn't finish.
Yeah, this is the only book.
No,
There is
anyway.
a reason for
It is a tough read, but it's very good when if you are, I feel if you binge read this, you don't give yourself a long time, just 2 or 3 days and you just binge read it. It's a much better book for that.
Right.
Yeah, so that's what I did. So,
yeah.
and because you do that, you're not confused with like, I think you probably have 25, 30 Orlinos and,
Yeah, that is another thing. I had to keep turning back. Which one was this? And
so
but
if you binge read, it's a little more easier to follow through who is who. Otherwise, I think I would have gone mad. Anyways,
it's not an easy read. It is a very tough read and demanding read.
Right.
And unless and until you read minutely, you can't enjoy it. For example, I came after I completed the book 4 days back. I had sufficient time. I thought of just again going back, some underline and other things. I found there was one phrase actually, death within death. Death actually is only one instance when this was handed, though it is there actually. Death within death. I was thinking, what is death within death? We know death. With this organism ends, we have an idea and all those things. That's the point. And if you recollect, there was one character, Prudencio Aguilar, I think I'm pronouncing it correctly, where this fellow loses cockfight and he comes and hits him, and this man hits him back and he dies. Remember, very beginning.
Correct. That was a cockfight, is it? Which one?
Yes, in cockfight, he taunts him, you are what I call, you are unmanly like that.
Your wife, with the wife.
She doesn't use it. She doesn't conceive, so it gets hurt and he hits him back. And in that fight, actually, he dies.
Correct.
So that man visits him after some time.
Correct. The
after some time, yes. Visits him. And I'll read out the sentence actually. After, and why he visits, why Prudence comes back, he offers his reason. And it's something we can't imagine. Death is death, and it is in its finality for us, final for us. After many years of death, the yearning for the living was so intense, the need for company so pressing, so terrifying the nearness of that other death, which exists within death, that Prudence Aguilar had ended up loving his worst enemy. This worst enemy here is Arcadia Boundia. I read again. After many years of death, the yearning for the living was so intense. A dead man wants to live again. The need for company so pressing. He wanted to have a company. He was feeling so lonely after having died. And then so terrifying the nearness of that other death. Here the crucial expression. So terrifying the nearness of that other death, which exists within the death, that Prudencio Aguilar has ended up loving his worst enemy. That means perforce he started loving his worst enemy. Now the question is, what is this death within death? Believe me, I had to search and Google and book and other things. Normally, the expression that they found was, in a paper I found it actually. Death within death is a complex phrase. The main death, physical ending of the organism and other things, it is a traditional and it is physical. We all are aware of that. The other death is complete annihilation, being utterly forgotten, wiped from a living memory, and no longer existing in any form on this earth. Even his memory is also non-existence. That is second death, he says. That paper said, I'm not sure whether I correctly been able to say it or that the interpretation is correct or not. This is what perhaps a writer meant, death within death. That means one has got two deaths. One is physical ending of organism, conventional ending. And the other one is his memory is also annihilated from the face of it. That is the second death. We have several characters like that. They are very much loved and all those things. Actually, they are put at a higher pedestal. We respect them, regard them. Once they go away, almost 80% of their memory leaves us. And over a period of time, 10, 20 years down the line, we entirely forget them. That happens. So that he was afraid of, that Prudencio Aguilar. Hence, he came back from the death and he wanted to be with his worst enemy, that is Arcadia Bohemia. Thank you.
Wants to be remembered.
He wants to be remembered. And we all have, believe me, madam, we all have that inherent feeling within us.
Correct, correct.
Intense desire. We want to be, even though we go away physically, we want to be remembered by our progeny or by our acquaintances or by our friends. We want to live in their hearts for all times to come, forever. That desire is intense and it is there. Perhaps that is where the writer handled it this way. Even we don't mind to live in the hearts of enemies. Forget about friends.
Correct.
Thank you, madam.
Again, this reminds me of another animation movie. It's called
Please.
Book of Life. A really worthy watch. That's also very interesting. It's got little gems of quotes like this all through it, where again, the book, there's a lot of which I would say that's also another magical realism properly and another animated movie with a lot of magic and stuff.
Okay,
So the main theme of it is that, that the dead want to be remembered. So, which is why you have all those traditions of remembering them and all that.
Thank you. So there are 4 points I got noted, correct me. Madam has said, Ranjani Madam has said, and on Gabo, his son has written a book, autobiographical. We'll try to find out. And then she also suggested the wife writer's book, movie like that. And you have suggested Encanto. And now the Book of Life. Thank you.
I have another suggestion. Another animation movie called Coco.
Yeah, Coco. Yes. Yes.
Coco exactly has what Shamalraji has said, where the dead come to visit the living once every year. So that's a Latin American tradition. And they cannot come if your family forgets you.
Correct.
So they try very hard. Just like, in Indian tradition, we do Shraddh or whatever. Our ancestors. So it's very nicely shown through the animation. And of course, there is a story and a mystery and things like that. But
the Book of Life is also the same concept, It's the same thing that the dead come to visit and that day, that particular day when they
the Day of the Dead.
The Day of the Dead.
So that's I think a cultural thing.
Yes.
In Hindu, it is there every year. Actually, we do that Shraddha anniversary, death anniversary, without fail. Actually, and if there are 4 brothers, the 4 sons, all 4 sit together and do it. We do it in our house. Actually, that is a fact. Coco, is it, madam? Animated film again?
Yes, yes, it is.
It's an animated.
My knowledge of the movies is very limited. I don't have much of an. Anyway, thank you very much. And one more interesting thing, actually, there is a factor of war, as you have already said it. War in the movie, battle, war, and other things. I've come across one situation actually, which corresponds to our current period actually, when Russia is hitting Ukraine. If you remember, actually, it is a talk between our Colonel Marquez and Colonel Arulina Buendia. He asks actually, this Beundia asks Marquez Colonel, tell me something, old friend. Why are you fighting? And Marquez answers, what other reason could there be for the great liberal party? He spoke of liberal party and conservatives. And observe how he responds this Arulanya Beundia. You are lucky because you know why. As far as I am concerned, I have come to realize only just now that I am fighting because of pride.
Correct.
So now, if that be the case, actually the fight between Ukraine and Russian, well, maybe one is fighting for the pride.
Yeah.
He doesn't require those things. It's a question of pride, and he knows it. There is no cause. It's a question of fighting for a purpose or a pride. If there is a purpose, something else. Here the battle is for pride, an individual megalomaniac's pride. That's all. Thank you.
Sometimes it's not even pride, right? It's all mercenary reasons.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So, I just have these few quotes. I'll share the quotes and then we'll wrap up. Yeah.
Sure.
Yes. So it's enough for me to be sure that you and I exist at this moment. What does he say? He asked. He's very sad, Ursula answered, because he thinks that you're going to die. Tell him, the colonel said, smiling, that a person doesn't die when he should, but when he can. This
Beautiful.
felt very,
Beautiful.
very different. There's always something left to love. That was also beautiful.
Yes.
Time was not passing. It was turning in a circle.
Circle.
Just what Ranjini was telling now.
Exactly.
Yeah. Death really did not matter to him, but life did. And therefore, the sensation he felt when they gave that decision was not a feeling of fear, but of nostalgia. And again, this was, I think, so beautiful. This is the first line of the book also brings this. So when they are going to shoot him, he remembers the past when he went to discover ice with his father. He's not feeling fear or anything else, he's accepting of it. But more, he's thinking of the past. And there's that beautiful chapter where he thinks about a lot of things just before being shot, which was also very beautifully done.
In this case, the book, we have read books that are linear or non-linear. In this case, it goes to future, comes back to past, again from past, another future.
Right.
That means it is really cyclical, as you just said.
Yeah.
We don't know where it ends, how it begins. That is the thing.
Right.
Thank you.
He really had been through death, but he had returned because he could not bear the solitude. This was also, you had mentioned about death within death. And,
Yeah, exactly.
So I felt that death within death also was that, I think, I felt what does he mean by death within death was that he meant the solitude, the loneliness of maybe not being remembered, not having anyone to share memories with, or,
Could be. Could be. And the word 77, solitude figures 77 times in the novel.
Oh, okay. I didn't realize that.
I went because I was watching solitude, and it just immediately gives, madam, word count 77. It came. Wow, pray.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I think every character goes through a period of solitude.
Yes.
There's some stage or some period when they are alone, when they are not able to share their feelings with anyone.
Yes.
And,
Exactly. The common characteristic of all the characters in 7 generations is solitude. That is also individual. If you observe, you will get a period when they went in for solitude. You are very correct.
Correct. Yeah.
I think this quote is really nice.
Yeah. The secret of a good old age is simply an honorable pact with solitude.
Let's wait here. This is a quote I have selected. I wanted to put it because it suits me wonderfully. The secret of a good old age is simply an honorable pact with solitude. It suits me beautifully. I do that. Thank you. I selected actually. I wanted to post it.
I think it for everyone it is the same actually.
And I have put it in chat box, madam. The quote I have selected to be shared with you.
Okay, I will read it.
Taciturns. Okay, it's all right.
Okay.
I just put it. I have
Yes,
put it
yes.
already.
Sure, sure.
I put it. I put it.
They
Took a
were
portion.
so they were so close to each other that they preferred death to separation. This comes somewhere in the within the last two characters.
Mm.
Yeah. Wherever they might be, they always remember that the past was a lie, that memory has no return, that every spring gone by could never be recovered, and that the wildest and most tenacious love was an ephemeral truth in the end. This also was very deep and beautiful.
Yes, yes. Let me read out that.
So that's it. That's it with me. I'll open the chat box. You can read out the quote also. It's yeah.
I put it in chat box. Same thing, what you brought it.
Yeah. Taciturn, silent, insensible to the new breath of vitality that was shaking the house, Colonel Aureliano Buendia could understand only that the secret of a good old age is simply an honorable pact with solitude. Okay, this was the complete sentence.
Yeah, this was the complete sentence, and the last portion you have already.
The secret of a good old age. Is
I believe this. I believe this.
Yeah. True.
So do you think it was deserving of the Nobel Prize? I mean, like he was deserving of the Nobel Prize for this book?
I liked many parts of the book. I cannot say that I like the book in totality, you know. But I think so many places were done very beautifully. And of course, for someone who's lived through the Colombian history, I think they would find it much more relatable, and they might like it even more, I think. Because after this, I was looking at those, Sarit was showing me some videos of the Banana Republic, the history of the Colombian history, and all these banana plantations, and the kind of chaos they have wreaked in the, in the society over there, in the economy over there. And so every major incident in the book, whether it is shooting down the workers, or whether it's hiring these, these mercenary police who have no mercy. And I think the child pours juice or something on that police's shoe, and he hacks the child to death. So
there is one instance.
Yeah. So all this has been based on truth. There are actually real life incidents of all this happening. And so I don't know, maybe for us, it's still something far further away from us. So maybe we don't, when we don't know the history, maybe we can't appreciate it as much. But when I saw, went through the history of all these things and seeing the parallels with it, it was really something great, I think, about 100 Years of Solitude, which is why I felt maybe I could relate with the Midnight's Children more, because it was about India's, just immediate post-independence period. So since we know more about Indian history, probably it was easier to relate with Midnight's Children much more than 100 Years of Solitude.
Yeah, but I think in general, the award-winning books have to have this formula. So if you look at Booker Prize winners, I am convinced that if you write historical fiction, you place it against a major event or period in history, that's the formula to crack the prize. Either it has to be against a social conflict, or it has to be a major event in history against the backdrop of which you place your story. And it seems to be, whether it's a Nobel Prize or Booker Prize, or I'm sure many of the awards, very rarely they stray from this. If at all they stray, it will be more for, like this girl, woman, whatever that book was, the Booker Prize winner, which shared the Booker Prize with Margaret Atwood a couple of years ago.
Yeah,
That
the
lady
women
book
are
was, it was all
Yeah.
about gay and trans rights and stuff like that. Otherwise, generally, it has to be against a historical backdrop. So, yeah, I guess if you write that, you have a greater chance. So there you go, Archana. Your next book should be historical fiction.
I love reading historical, and I think somewhere you can call Tales from the History of Max as historical, though not really. Those are short stories, but of course, I agree with you. If when it touches upon some social issue, or if it touches upon some historical major incidents which have happened, of course, I think there's a higher chance of it being accepted. But I think there's also a lot about language and writing which also matters, because I read one place where it seems when he started writing 100 Years of Solitude, he actually started about 20 years before before when it was published. And he had the story fully in place. He had the characters in place, the names, everything. And but he told his friend, he showed him some of his earlier things, whatever he had put it up and all that, and he said, but I'm not good enough to write the book which I have in my head. I need to work on my writing. I need to improve my style and my literary style and my whatever my talents before I can actually approach and write this one. So I'm still waiting. I'm still working on other things to make myself better before I could go and approach this. So I think, yes, like these three-page sentence and all those things that he has tried to pull off in the book, maybe it makes a difference.
And the greatest sentence, beginning sentence.
Yes. And Midnight's Children also, I think it's the same thing. There's a lot of literary explorations which happen over there. So in Hindi or in Tamil, in our Indian languages, when we tell something, suppose we tell a child, eat fast in Tamil, and we'll say, sikro sabdo, or something. So that same word you tell twice, sikro. So when Rushdie writes in his book, he writes quick as one word.
Acha, okay. That means it is an experimentation.
Yeah, it's a lot of experimentation,
Then that will be my next TBR then.
It's very interesting to see how he's brought the Indian language words and the way we speak into the book. And that's I found it very interesting. I really found the writing style very interesting. So I think some kind of experimentation is also needed, Ranjini, not just this.
No, of course. But think about it today. If any writer sends a publisher a 3-page sentence, that instant reject, because if you have longer than 10 words in a sentence, they feel people will not read the whole sentence.
Yeah. There is nobody from my publisher here, so I can tell you the recent book which I sent him also. So he says, why are you describing all these things? It's a thriller, cut it all out. A thriller doesn't need to cut it all out. It has so many layers. It doesn't need to be just, that quick rushed thing. That's what at least I feel.
Yeah, in fact, the people are just so impatient, right? You had written about Shonda Rhimes' Year of Yes, right, in one of your newsletters. Yes. Yeah. And I listened to the audiobook recently, and I'm telling you, none of her sentences are more than 10 words, just based on the narration. I haven't even read the printed book, and it really suits because it's very short. It's very it moves faster, or it feels very urgent. No one has the patience now to of course we are a different breed, but in general, if you go to readers, they'll be like, beautiful descriptions and all this poetic lyrical prose and stuff. Very few people appreciate it. Most people would be like, get to the point.
These are the days of instant gratification, madam.
Yeah. But still
immediate, quick. They don't want to.
Yeah.
But actually, what I feel is okay, solid. But the deeper, it has got a longer life, longer shelf life.
Yeah, that's true. That's how it becomes a classic. And that first sentence is always spoken in such high regard for this.
Not several books, they have brought out other things also, one or two books, but this stands out compared to those things. If one has to live longer, I think these things are required. Instant, okay, it is a bit of music, classics we still hear now, and the latest music, overnight it becomes success again, everybody forgets and all those things. It is very contextual, that is what I feel. And contextual with reference to the times.
But I think there's a lot of pressure also from the publishers and from the industry. You cut down on words, cut down on things, let it be a smaller book. It's easier to get a shelf space for a smaller book. If you write this fat book, publisher can probably keep 3 different books in that place in the shelf in the bookstore. So, I think these kind of pressures probably wasn't there much before. Now it's become like how established you are, and then you can pull and you can push your weight and do other things, but otherwise it's a little difficult to do certain things. Anyway, I think we can keep on talking for another hour too. So if anyone wants to share anything, please feel free to unmute yourself. Tulika, do you want to add something?
No, I'm just a listener today, so I'm listening.
Maybe sometime later when you are in a better state or something, just see if you can just, probably you have a day or so, binge read the book, you might enjoy it a little more.
Yeah, I'll try to do that.
Yeah. Otherwise, otherwise you would be totally lost. Even Dr. Zhivago and all was much better when compared to this. Because the names are, it's completely the same name. There's only 2 names for all the characters in the book. So
yeah. But at least, I don't know which is worse.
Yeah. But, there's like some 25 oral news and all that. But yeah, of course, that was tougher to read. This is definitely much easier to read. Just that you don't know what you're reading. So that's why you're supposed to read quickly. If you read it quickly,
I really intend to get back to it at some point when I'm like more relaxed. I will.
Any ideas for what we can choose next?
I will message.
To Kill a Mockingbird.
You want to do that? All of you want to do it? We can.
No, I mean, it's on my list whenever you get around to it.
Have you read it, Tulika?
Yeah.
Okay.
More than once. So I'm good if you take it up or anything else. Is there no humor in classics? I was just wondering, is there any... I can only think of Three Men in a Boat. I couldn't think of...
Okay. People so Three Men in a Boat is humorous, is it?
Yeah, a bit. I mean, quite lots of portions of it is funny. But otherwise, there is no humor in classics. I was just wondering.
We should try and take up something which is more humorous, I guess.
Yeah, good humor is so hard to write, I think, for everyone. But
I can only think of P.G. Wodehouse, but that I don't know whether it's considered a classic, but it's really very good language. It should be considered a classic, according to me.
I have my doubts whether it's, I mean, if it is a classic, I'm all for it because I love P.G. Wodehouse. Yeah. But I'm not sure it falls in that classic category.
Yeah, even I'm not sure. But otherwise, even really, I can't think of, Unbearable Lightness of Being. Yeah.
So I don't think it's light-hearted subject though.
Definitely not light-hearted, but maybe
it's on my thing. I mean, I bought a hard copy of this book long time back, so it's been lying. I wouldn't mind if you take it up. I mean, it's been on my list for a while. So
yeah, same for me. Unbearable Lightness of Being. I also have one more suggestion. I'm going to put it in the Dropbox. The Tin Drum.
Yeah, it was one of the options last time, right?
Yes.
I probably read with all this confusion, I couldn't go ahead and read it. I read some 30-40 pages of it, and till whatever I read, it was excellent.
What is it about? What's the theme?
So it's about this person. I think who suffers from dwarfism or something. And he's in a mental institution, and it's him who's telling his own story.
It is from Gunter Grass, na? Or Gunter
Yeah,
Grass?
it's Gunther Grass.
That's
So
it.
it's about the post, it's after the World War and all these things, I think. So the post World War period or something like that. I'm not very, very sure. But as a story, I just loved whatever I read in the first 30, 40 pages, because he doesn't believe that he is mad or anything. So he's there in that institution, but he gives you various tales of what happened and how smart he is, how clever he is, and how, so slowly, I don't want to reveal a lot, but he tells about a lot of things of what happened to him and all those things. And
No
why
spoil.
he became, why he didn't get height, why he's suffering from dwarfism or whatever, And it's very, very interesting in the way the story is told. So it's an unreliable narrator and telling his own story.
Acha. Acha, just before Tulika madam was suggesting one book, what was that? Unbearable? I missed it.
It's in the chat box. The Unbearable Lightness of Being.
Let me
Sarat's
go to
suggestion.
let me go to chat box, ma'am.
Uh,
Unbearable Lightness of Being. Villain Kundera. Oh, acha, acha.
yeah.
Archana, you should actually pick out all the books that we have rejected
Yeah,
and make
exactly.
a fresh list.
I know.
Ah,
Because we missed a lot of very good books because we didn't pick them for the thing,
Correct.
for the discussion.
anyway, they missed in the poll.
We'll,
Yeah. Yeah, we could do-
So we'll have a poll of the losers.
Don't call them those. I feel bad already.
Okay.
Yeah, but I think light-hearted would be a good option for
Hmm.
the times.
Yeah.
Actually, but for the heavy recommendation made, I was getting ready for the Midnight Children.
Yeah. So that's also a very good thing. In fact, we can try that too.
Yeah, after a long time, we have not read any Indian writer. That is also a point.
True.
See, we did R.K. Narayan and other things, Mulkaraj Anand afterwards.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Rajdi, we could take our
Kantapura.
Kantapura. That was a wonderful book.
Hmm.
Yeah. So Midnight's Children is one more. And one more thing, which a book which me and Sarit love a lot, and is by Neil Mukherjee.
The last time.
And yeah, wow. Why did I forget the name? Sarat, can you please type what's the name? I forgot the name. I've forgotten the name. Sorry, I'll put it in the poll. I'm suffering from some bad memory. Okay, the great Indian novel Shashi Tharoor. What is the one by the Neil Mukherjee, which is the one which we like? And the great Indian novel also, I've been hearing a lot of good about
Fab.
it. Anyone
I
read
read
it?
that one. Yeah, but long back, I'd love to reread it. He's put the
Okay.
Mahabharata in the Indian political context.
Okay, we should read that one. I think we should
Yeah.
give it a shot, because I also heard a lot of good about from whoever has read it.
Yeah.
This Neil Mukherjee, is it a life apart
No.
or the lives of others or,
The lives of others. The lives
or
of,
a state of freedom?
correct. Lives of others.
Lives of others.
It's a real fantastic read, and it's a huge book. But
Acha.
it's just like all the light we cannot see. You probably won't even feel that
yes,
it's
yes,
moving, It just
Ah.
moves. It just you just fly across the pages. You'll never
Okay,
realize
okay.
it's a big book.
It was very small chapters and other things.
Yeah,
Like-
yeah. Here there are many characters, but it's just so quickly moves across and very beautifully each character is brought out. Yeah, okay. So we've got a lot of suggestions. I'll take out some 4 from this and I'll put it across. And let's I'll send the link to the poll tomorrow.
Yeah. So Archana, put the link to the discussion, put it a little earlier, no, please. I think that's why I missed it, because I didn't get the the
Yeah.
message.
This time it's been such a squeeze, Tulika. I'm really sorry. Next
No,
time,
no worries.
definitely put in the link as soon as, maybe a day or two
A
before.
day. Yeah. Because Suchi also called me and I was like, no, there's no link because she's not on Facebook.
Oh,
So she's waiting.
I actually, is Suchi subscribed to the newsletter? She's not
Yeah,
subscribed to
I
the
think
newsletter
yes,
also.
she is, because she gets the mails.
She gets the mails.
She gets the
Okay.
mails, yeah. And she votes also on the mails. But
Oh. Because the mail, actually, what happened, I forgot to put on Facebook, that the mail went about quite some time back, 10 hours back or something.
okay. Because
Yeah.
she called me in the evening saying that I haven't got any intimation. So I said, yeah, even I haven't. Because she's almost finished the book. She had a little bit left. She's almost never mind.
So bad. Suchi should have joined.
I know. Anyway, she'll see the recording. And
Oh, really feeling bad for that.
sorry, that's okay.
Oh, okay. Thank you so much, everybody, for joining in.
Thank
Let's
you, madam.
wrap it up.
So April 14th, New Year's Day, na, madam, for you.
Yes, it is.
I wish you a happy.
Thank you so much. Happy New Year to whoever celebrates.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
Good night, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.